supposed to be in. My name is Anthony Ball. Before the World Trade Center attack, New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, they had roles with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and defendants of his in a 2006 case, already from years since before I was a kid, before I was born. Before everyone was born, there was already a method between campuses and between uses of corruption at all locations where it was exploited at other locations, as it was since the breaching method, for example, put forth the course of black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions in exception nature, where we have different color eyes, as explained by nature, aparted from subjects' treatments, aparted with the significance in the relativity, no, of its significance, that of your identities. These now, through abridged identities individually grouped in together, self-valued positive treatments, negative treatments, and identity treatments that can't be defended in us at the same time from the method of and from the nature slash S of, criminal insidiousness that were propagated, only capable of increasingly being manifest, only capable of being increasingly demonstrated by nature itself, but simultaneously how being used through a breaching method. Nature itself is demonstrating the breaching method, but how it demonstrates it is by how it tells us to think, using what is true always, not denying the slightest exceptions, not using natures of truth used as lies, used to screen lies, used to maintain qualities of fact cheating like timing, time cheating, exceptions denial, the value of exceptions. They're painting fake exceptions. It is not by accident. Certain type of victim, A through Z, all kinds of victims. That's what you are when you came through schools that did not use the revelations that come from knowing the simultaneous in the finite, for example, where and how. We know simultaneously. Revolutions come from where and how we know that we have a course that is told by nature, using how we have black eyes, black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions in exception nature. See, this is true always, not denying the slaves exceptions, not valuing the slaves exceptions denied, not valuing them having been valued denied. If any lie and pretended other at the same time. And so they have natures of who's lying or not that left and leave out roles with uses of those. Remember, differentially criminally foreign influence, no one wanted to be. That's what witch trials about, even if they made, even beyond, if the whole thing was made up. We know to an extent it was made up. We know that it's true always, not denying any exceptions. We know that I never heard of it attached with slavery. It's designed to be discussed with slavery. How everyone sickly distinctly was / is. These suburbs were designed tactically denatured with slavery entrenched north and south slavery that when you guys agree about. See, humanity agrees about way more. But the people who are offensively speaking for ourselves, they're also taking collusions with people that didn't want to be criminally foreign influence. They're attaching us to fake natures and ties to, then they need to make us fake ties to other people after and relevant against the people who are going to use short words correctly. American history begins and stays. Not led by the significance and the value of how and why the course of black pupils, whites of eyes, being and having been abridged and not simultaneously addressed with evidential treatments regarding color treatments, for example. The time treatments are recorded as actually recorded, having been a certain type of victim / hyper victim that the breaching method effectively, correctly knew would self-value things like time treatments used simultaneously, too fast, too slow, to get over on exceptions and exception nature, where and how they are actually manifest. I tell the best vaccines. And for example, we are each a simultaneous nature, except for how we are a sequence nature, where we're on a part of this greater species identity body. We are time / we are the increasing value of this, even when we are gone. Heaven and hell were more probably demonstrably revealed most probably by the ancients, with pantheism having more probably been about and demonstrably about how the only ism to be used as pantheism, because isn't to be believed in. It comes with God being used as an algebraic variable, a God variable. Is something really going to be positive onto each of its 5 identities of order simultaneously? Being the value of truth, what really happening was true before the order of the finite now. Excuse me. Not just to an extent we could figure out, this means contemplating it. You as an extent of its body, the identity of the hyper-simultaneous. The same, the identity of volume progression we know is space / an existence, and that we agree to an extent is making more and more of its identity of volume, where value is nature / nature is value. And or as space / existence through temporary space / existence. And what is most probable and demonstrable is that in how physics was generated by and as an identity that came from, while with this hyper additional identity and or identity of order, identity / S, or identity / IES rather, or identity / identities rather. Bound. Well, not, but with Earth's a special difference, making and keeping. How not? An exception really in demonstration of the same thing. It is keeping in an equivalent value. And its identity of relationship to itself. And the value of that is greater than and more finite than everything else. And then, as identity works, and as computers work, for example, with identity, they have to mimic this. but not from within and incapable of being that identity that was slash is. For example, as an identity of order, the value of, the only increasing value of what really was true. And the significance of it is with that, of the value of that, where and how the Native American, the hyper Native American phase, loss of their education came through the hyper European phase already having been, they already lost their education, already had replaced what couldn't afford understanding it, pretending its own positive and negative treatments. As each age of fact treat nature too. No, because even that was and is tactically employed, tactically ulterior from where and how nature has these employments. See, so little kids were supposed to stay focused on things closer to the ground. And, you know, the interchange, and in other words, all Earth was tactically denatured to know by this breaching method that knew nature itself was going to show that to consciousness itself, which is its hyperpossession. We are itself to an extent, but where we are and only an extent of that, which is everything at once, that comes with its complete identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that, and the only increasing value of the special value of that, which is also simultaneously how it shows us the value of understanding how the identity of the simultaneous is distinct from, but not simultaneously not distinct from the value of what is sequential. And in this volume science, where manifest is individual groups, species, body, and volume /S. I tell best boxings, more space / existence, identity, as hyper invisible but still discernible as being generated. The Old Testament communicates that we are supposed to speak about this. We're supposed to write this. We're also supposed to address criminal insidiousness as an identity, the ground's identity of relationship to itself, where and how the formal stewards, people who define formally what criminal insidiousness is, they are recorded having been roles with more natures of drug crimes, more natures of organized crimes, even with their worst patients and criminals who they hurt and torture with drugs. There were recorded various natures of fact-cheating, nature-oriented predicate acts roles. In nature is relevant at the same crime scenes, and since kept the need to hide life progressions, nature is still demonstrating we are on a criminally foreign influence base. Pace. Some shadow box. Some rest. I tell this you want to fight. You guys want to fight you with some hyper minority of each modern country suits and ties counters with bombs, and they left this out. All podiums rolls with this. See, once they've been rolls with the state rolls with that, the sick natures like that. How much money they've been stealing from healthcare under the name of it? You know how sick the logic of lawyers are? Pretending they can't fathom how lawyers were involved, criminally foreign influence, with the branch of the government, individually grouped together with that. What are Jim Crow laws about? Let alone what a witch trial slavery about? Because they go together, even if it was made up, just the witch trial. Because and everything increasingly is about hyper Native American rights. and all exceptions are where and how it's about hyper European and African rights that were also affected by this theater perfectly. Suits and ties counters, left and leave out, logic, short words, proper. Yeah. Has it left out the significance of how little representatives now, into how we are individually grouped together. Same people, too. It's all systems other. It's moved down to their individual. To this the identity of every location, fake natures of, needs to self-value, criminally foreign influenced interpretations of words like impressions, for example, with quote, real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice, unquote, which I was taught by my father was what Marbury versus Madison means. And my father was a Compass pro se litigant. And there were like people involved with union locations and pilfering monies from unions, all kind of things on and off job sites, like various nature, organized crime, stuff like that, who had also been rolled timed on and off child campuses, on and off other ages and natures of campuses, not just colleges and universities, but fire campuses and medical campuses, where the big world slash small world stayed and slash is maintained. An identity theft slash slander slash, slavery method, and all self-value roles. Would employ the negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures to be blamed on, not just to be blamed on other things other than ourselves. It was simultaneously consciously employing self-value roles with criminal insidiousness natures of means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So a criminal insidiousness nature, like a wrongdoer, is going to make positive treatments distinctly. Or like a criminal insidiousness nature person of a court involved with witch trials, with laws entertaining a fraction of what was entertained, as that is spoken by the revelations, by the nature of the labeling of Jim Crow laws as Jim Crow laws, and where and how to. See, people's reactions are evidence tactically altered, naturally, other than tactical, all formal evidence treatments made. When people are wanting to fight, needing to fight about debatable, you need to bring things even before interbranch locations as collusion slash S with that which has been using consciously. Other things, others, ourselves, blamed for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And it also effectively employed this as means effectively to have our own here, there, everywhere, sense our own with the means we have since we're at each age. Distinctly, but those words stay the same at each age. So we have 3 pairs of short words, because we're also able to make the words of elderly by the time before we are elderly. And even since we are kids, we are able to know that we have black pupils, whites of eyes. And of course, that is and was clear. We have the value of it being having been abridged. And all pretending passions and emotions relative to it. And the timing of that is irrelevant, is relevant to what they think and pretend each age can comprehend. This is relevant where and how the interbranch locations have been making used those locations. They are shown needs to hide from where they made criminalizations, natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, names treatments, time treatments, value treatments, significance of it treatments, and delusions treatments mixed with tactical ones that are relevant where and how, as an answer slash S, there are roles with that identity theft slash fraud slash slender method against any man or woman who tries to make the short words and care proper for any age of factory nature. This is a trap sickly distinctly against each age of factory nature through each age's factory nature's members. So there are people from Weathersfield who have ties to the other countries, like Italy, for example, and they have roles with this method against Italians against Italians. But they do it even where it's Italians against Italians. I'm Italian and Irish. They came against me like that. These are the people that are charged with the cultural narratives, not for the preservation of where they're distinctly having been victims to this perception ancient breaching method. Has the sciences entertained? Has it humanity, while we're individual grouping together, has our identities, volume science, other? Starting fights between people. It's forcing subject treatments in measuring and maintaining how they leave out exception and exception nature. They're forcing disgusting subjects. A girl has to compete against male athletes, for example. You know, and then where this subject is treatment is, they're measuring and maintaining at each age what involves where and how people adapt, where and how no one wanted to be criminally foreign influence. No one wanted to have, let alone to have collusions with at all locations where there are databases. And then further where the sciences are manifest. Because where the sciences are manifest, when you bring up a subject like slavery or witch trials, you bring up the identity of the subject the sciences share. And where and how within a special, like with their special difference relevant. Because where it appears that they don't share an identity, they share an identity. Not only do they share an identity, that identity shares a semi-nature relationship to what causes positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures here. Reveals evolutions, fruits, and gifts and means out of nowhere. It is a method of science that is hypernated pure. And it recognizes that and how understanding that those short words is increasingly being demonstrated to us need to be understood. But other short words that cannot afford those short words to be understood are being and having been, and they have been assigned already to other means to promote up in apparent motivations, even when real ones, even as real ones like money, things like that. Those are also juxtaposed and have been juxtaposed as roles with those uses of identity grounds, locations, and names and time treatments and things like that. There are fact treatment nature predicate acts that this breaching method effectively employed people A through Z, individually grouped and together. Self-identity roles with effectively like a magic trick. Seeing everyone, it gets you where and how. There's no integrity standing, and you're told to blame other things, others, others. I can't do that like that. And while people are pretending passions and emotions, they care about the mind. The mental experts, they've been roles with men and women and their kids, each age of their fact-shaping nature, signally distinctly from the branches of government. And them, some of them they're together with this, individually grouped and together. But with this is with their patients and criminals' exclusions with them, and increasingly against themselves. The patients and criminals against them, and them against the patients and criminals. But they're also collusions. Because all that, they're all kept, they're reusing the locations together. They've been roles with the line progressions that are affected, needed to be self-valued increasingly by people roles with it at each age, sickly distinctly. So effectively kept are people with subject treatments counters to things that are consciously multi-front, conscious uses of distinct natures of organized crime and of war crimes, as roles, for example, with fact-driven nature-oriented predicate acts, and with the relevance of the pretending passions and emotions, where how that is with the communications that Native Americans and that our founders communicated for us to understand and teach. But see, we have other taught for the Native Americans and for our founders, and it is forced through our own. And therefore, we are forced to entertain forced representatives. Like for example, everyone has black pupils and white eyes, so we know that not one skin color is black or white. We know there's fake there. We know that hurts people sickly distinctly. But we know that sickly not distinctly has not been counted, and we know all want to have it counted. But we know when people say to themselves, "Oh, but I didn't do that," when they have a logic like that is self-cultivated. But it has maintained self-cultivated. That is maintained outcome. That is maintained. There are other motivations and roles and uses for other natures of predicate acts that roles with fentanyl, natures involved with fentanyl, and the counters to it have and have. They have collusions with themselves. There is fact-human nature-oriented possession of your fact-human nature-oriented stewards. So Fox News, CNN, MSNBC through time, they've been bringing up the word as victims, certain type of victim / hyper victim, the words and subject treatments like the border, because this breaching method measures and maintains exploitation of everyone and everything for how it is, through ourselves. So it could, because nature's going to demonstrate that too. That's why everyone, whenever we hear people speaking about justice and making examples of it, it's not by accident they left the significance of this out. Those identity of locations, those identity of logic. For example, the value of their sequence, what they are associated with. They've been sending people to jails involved with 6 things. And people are all over the jail, because you have 6 things scary to people who do crimes. No, these are the people involved with fact-sheeping nature-oriented predicate acts, methods and natures of crime that are way worse than the people they're putting in jail. And the people going into courts more than there are streets in our towns. See, already they can't individually group it together. Our formal stewards cannot defend themselves, their identity treatments, in us at the same time. And, or they attach that person to fake words. That's relevant to where to how the significance of how we have black people, whites alive, and nature demonstrating exceptions and exception nature's course. Being haven't been other than one could be. They're faking exceptions too to call people liars. Relevant to where now there are only three branches of government, and the exception nature is increasingly tied to them, increasingly criminally foreign influence too. Differentially, we deal with criminal enterprises, private ones, and relevant reported uses of that insidiousness of people A through Z with their fact and value treatments that left such the significance and that leave such the significance of such out. Increasing the need to self-value where time treatments were used simultaneously and are used simultaneously too fast, too slow, while they're putting fake things into databases, including into branch. And these are roles consciously, increasingly with criminally foreign influence uses of identity ground locations and campuses, names, and families, interests, a whole bunch of countries shared together, specifically to keep everyone worse than terrorized, worse than tortured, and self-value roles, pretending and even, with the mixture, all used, lying as the people would pretend, who's the liar, who's not. They have to switch names, forge names. These are connected. The investigations, investigators, the people that went to campuses I went to, and then they're not just against me. They're forcing us to use other people's names. They make fake exceptions off campuses, interstates, with a Ray Reynolds, for example, and intercities of Connecticut, as people involved with on-off campuses, with predicate acts against each age of fact, treating nature sickly distinctly. The same ones timed on-off elderly homes, roles with the only people that they can use for help, not by accident. The only natures of courts members and family members allowed to counter such roles with those workers and stuff like that by accident. Central Connecticut State University has roles between the intelligence community, interstates. Well, I know all the. It's not just Central Connecticut State University. We're switching names, forging names too. Like with this detective Sabuda, involved with some KKK theme and some black themes, state police, military families. Also, they're involved with some child offenders, child abuses of mixed natures, including disgusting natures against little boys and girls, little fake punks too long, intercities connected. So we have the shopping centers, and we have the malls involved with the intelligence community, involved with this Weatherfield police gangs with the forging names, big professionals over the phone, fabricating audio and video transcripts. You gotta fear God and just apologize to the presidents, plural, because you've been doing this since I was a kid. You're gonna be using the Weathersfield town offices, names involved with the president, with violence on my street too. And you guys have the audacity to bring up violence. Violence, produce passion and bigger violence. What they did to the kids in New York City, law! Boxing is strong. For God to hide and plot. I'll rap a lot. So leading up to the World Trade Center attack, in that context, even in the Ninth Circuit Court, it was proven after the World Trade Center attack, there had been post-dated documents that had been insidiously time-stamped to make them look like they were handed in late and presented to the panel of judges in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. Weathersfield police, associated with some child sex offenders, confessed and demonstrated, reported, confirmed roles with a Scalora family involved with that, and with them with various natures of federal crimes on my street, and uses of my name on off campuses I went to that are criminally foreign influence, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. You watch how sick. These are people also timed roles with names next to the campuses, in our buildings, including a post office. Fear God to hide and plot. No, and we need to there's various natures of courts. There are the whole bunch of people with Middletown, probate courts, Hartford probate court, and Middletown locations, and there's a New Britain Superior Court and a Hartford Superior Court, other courts in Hartford. People involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, who are also involved all along Church Street, all along spots in New Park Avenue, and like in Hartford, and next to the schools, and with the people that live near there, involved with federal crimes, with kids with them, and with Lena's Pizza. Lena's Pizza has roles with people on the child offender registry that were leaders of the kids, and that further were and are involved with that then and now. Other mixed natures of abuses of each age of fact-keeping nature, little uses of corners of buildings, uses of phenomena of magic tricks and databases where we have the kids of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and of the mayors, for example, sickly, distinctly criminally foreign influence through time, and with the neighbors' kids, because they involve them with their fact-keeping nature-oriented predicate acts and relevant roles and uses of it. So there was the Morrow family is one of the ones involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and various natures of federal criminals before they got caught, and roles with like sexual confessions and natures of things all along Route 3, natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders, as ties to the roles with illusions with wire crimes and mail crimes, and as their roles with the corner of confessions with Heather Hansen and others at Central Connecticut State University who confirmed it. People from my grammar school had people from Central Connecticut State University in New Britain. I live in Wethersfield, Connecticut. They were involved, and people next to the campuses in Hartford, involved with little kids and stuff like that. They're making uses of people's names. They're putting illusions in the conversations with each age, where and how they have, problems that intelligence community and whatever of each modern country dealt with, and so they deal with it, and they have naive reactions, but they're dishonest. They're criminally foreign influence. They're self-value uses of all identity ground locations, criminally foreign influence, identity theft, fraud, slanders, roles. So they got a whole bunch of people tied to Luigi Guerrero and to girls and his family, his sisters and stuff. I don't know their name, and people that are involved with them, like on Pond's side, I don't know their names too. They're pretended passions, emotions tied to this, as the people involved with the child offenders, with Wethersfield Police, State Police, F.B.I., as names involved with the courts, judges, and prosecutors and their family members, as names also timed uses of areas of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and their roles with people on the witness protection program associated with that, as the FBI side of it and the other side of it. So we may have the corners on Griswold Street are involved through time with natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders. People I don't know the name of at all. People I only know went out of their way to pretend to know me off campus and on campus behind my back. So it makes if you go back and talk about it, it sounds like you know someone because you went to the same campus. And then the only exceptions they know you from, they have to hide what it was really about. This is also relevant to as how I know what they're doing with fentanyl, because they have way worse. These are people involved with forensics locations through time, with syntactic fact-keeping nature, racketeering associated with Joshua Julian. Joshua Julian has been involved with reported criminally foreign influence uses of investigators. A whole bunch of people tied to Rob Rodriguez, involved with the World Trade Center and with shopping centers in Rocky Hill. Rob Rodriguez demonstrated, confirmed, reported, confessed. I don't know him. Tried to pretend the other 3 times. So they make it trying to make fake exceptions to make it look like I know him. And he yelled out confession 2 times. It was totally overtly. As one of the people involved with police chief Cintron, and 1 years ago, involved with houses near me, with an O'Brien family. O'Brien families, plural. People with Sandy Hook, people tied to a Phil Palolo, that also with the forensics locations, and with this Joshua Julian on our Facebook pages of campuses with the medical community and the judges and prosecutors and their families criminally involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, foreign and domestic military, them pretending passions and emotions regarding instances, treatments, and regarding after they involved people that with the corners of streets with identity thefts and frauds in relevant ways. There's a Paul Kelly who doesn't know me at all. He was influenced to pretend other. So they made, I had no conversation with him. And his neighbors across the street from him, out of all those girls, they're one of the ones involved with the medical community, further involved with child offenders, and the reported effectively conscious time of uses that they self-value, where how they get away with bad things by being and having been involved with sickly, distinct natures of things they've been pretending to be against. And their roles with this juxtaposed with subject treatments on campuses. They left out how all these other natures of things are being confessed and demonstrated through their own kids as the ones that are involved with the overt criminal enterprises. The witness protection program, the FBI and people on the witness protection program have roles with names at corners, and there's a tied to there's a Joshua Stryker, reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's involved behind my back with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me since I was a kid. Not even in my grade. He's been putting fake. They make confessions and things to others and spread lies and rumors with the people with the names that are criminally foreign influence with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They abuse my teacher. I don't even know his name. I need I need to use his name. I don't want to use it anyway. But in other words, I need there's an Eric Oliveri, and there's a Craig Oliveri, and there's the Aiello family. They're one of the ones with the news media and on and off the campuses and the spots next to the campuses involved with relevant identity theft, fraud, slanders instances, pretending passions and emotions, and with the people with a foreign and domestic, medical and overt criminal enterprises, especially differentially if they are with them. See, UConn has roles with Mark Violet, also according to Fast Demonstrated Confirmed, involved with predicate acts on off Trinity College, UConn, and my street with men and women from Central Connecticut State University, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed him involved with them with various natures of federal crimes. Now, these are also hate crimes to a mix, and they have a Michael J. White, where these are people reported with criminally foreign influence uses of the news media locations and locations next to them, uses of programs. Everything with the Hartford Hospital has all kinds of, even online, which is reported true, even if it was made up. There's an Anthony Agnew and his brothers and his family through time have been also involved with their neighbors, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with some police involved on all Fox Connecticut News with federal crimes with them, like predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, pretending passions and emotions, pretending motivations. Their motivations are relevant to the uses of strangers that make people use their names so they can make it look, and where they're exploiting the phenomenon. People don't even know each other. They make fake parties, so then if someone tries to talk about it, it sounds like you're at a party. They're lying about what came before that, what was there, and what's actually reported since. I don't know the Jennifer Smith. I never had a word of conversation in my life. All kinds of people tied to her recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's Judge Smith, people through time involved with the intelligence community, Hartford courts, New Britain Superior Court involved with FBI, Wethersfield Police, medical community, as the names involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, people with the little party games, bad things with each age of factory nature, bad fake punks pretending that they're other certain type of victim / hyper victim. So we need to get them from the names forging and switching. So there's also further, we need to get addressed, need to get, they have that corner, they have a Joshua Julian recorded involved with threats to break into houses, as the names that recorded and confessed and demonstrated in the past roles with Weathersfield police, where they were police, as people involved with overt gangs and stuff like that, who are in, I even saw them around the middle school. They have one quick exception with the Joe DeMorrow and Eric Mendez. And, you know, as people involved with a Peruvian, you know, they have a whole bunch of, there's people associated with the Peruda who's associated with the intelligence community and a lawyer of a police chief, Cintron. I never had a conversation with him in my life. He tried to make it look like other. I walked by him one time as one of the people involved, intercities, with the kids in the intelligence community where they don't have the right to lie, but they'd be using the right to lie, which is relevant, not just to the different types of abuses of each age. Because these are people on and off the elderly home in the spots next to it, 3 spots at the end of the Bone Turnpike, a whole bunch of people involved, planting fake things, identity theft, fraud, slavery. That's one of the things that is distinctly against each person. So one of the evidences too is that now they've been faking conversations about the World Trade Center. That's a serious thing. So people need to pretend, others they need to pretend they're about serious. Well, we did it because we're passionate, they're relying about their motivations. Make sure you get them on paper. If they want to say sorry, they do that. And do it fast, being this class. So Judge Napolitano, they have your Facebook page involved with not letting, told on the British Superior Court as it recorded sustained roles with various natures of federal crimes, overtly sick against little kids, with people that have been fabricating audio and video in interbranch locations behind people's backs with little magic tricks, has something to do with their roles all along Route 3 and at the town line spots, like Town Line Drive and South State Highway. A whole bunch of people with the intelligence community that are criminally foreign influence and with religious spots, effective uses of that are relevant, where how they have Michael John White and the black themed and the KKK themed military families involved with these punks with the rape threats and things on the British Superior Court recorded, involved with the principal child offender and others I caught before that was caught. And there are more upskirt pictures involved with that too, and people with those locations. So UPS also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. If if we have to sue them if they're not gonna help, follow me. Well, I don't when we went there because before I went there, the Joshua Julian, and the Joshua Striker, the Joshua Julian was after, but the Joshua Striker, it was connected though, because Joshua Julian's name had already been used with me. But he's also on Facebook and involved with the investigators and vetting identities and judges that have been using those investigators and was fabricating audio and video. So they have child sex offenders on the registry. They have crimes with Joshua Julian, and he's been planting evidences with the medical community. They've been putting little kids that they really talk to doctors. Those same doctors are putting other kids in fake conversations. They have roles with criminally foreign influence people at forensics locations through time. Also relevant with the fact nature oriented subjects that Joshua Julian brought up and through and confessed, demonstrated, recorded, spreading lies about through the Facebook page of a principal child defender's campus before he was caught. There were more then and now intercities involved with that. And the Weathersfield Police Chief Cintron has a daughter, Jessica Cintron, that John Miano brought into his confessions. John Miano was involved with sequence shifts with them. I never met him before. No, I never had anything to do with him when my neighbor was in my grade, came in my grammar school when I was in 4th grade. People in the grammar school were involved with the intelligence community with each of the ages campuses. People went with campuses before that. They employed those people to roles in the narratives with investigations, investigators. This is where no one wants to use each other's names. They're forcing us to use each other's names, make it look like we know each other. And where and how it's relevant, where they make fake exceptions where we know each other. People has one, in other words, people I didn't communicate with at all on the telephones. In other words, the only exceptions, they made them up. And that's what's actually recorded because it was relevant to where and how, you know, others recorded. Then they've been pretending. And there's also roles with uses of all kinds of uses of all kinds of natures of crime scenes by themselves, because that is simultaneously where and how that is being used by a breaching method that uses them at other locations to effectively to show them how they need to hide how they be used there too, because they need to hide what they know when they have these things brought to them, things that involve people from their town. You see how these towns have this facade of business. The suburbs were tactically denatured and designed before our founders' parents were even born. Our founders' parents. In other words, they had to they had already been sustaining the Native Americans that against the Native Americans. They had been sustaining simultaneously. Everyone blaming other things. Everyone pretend they can speak for sophistication anyway, for truth anyway, for religion anyway, for the values that we're told the Constitution is supposed to stand for, regardless of the amendment. Those amendments treatments are supposed to leave out where and how the roles with all identity ground locations still criminally foreign influence, database relationships and relativity. I left out. Our founder would be livid if you did not let that speak. Always with Creek. Those are our founders too, Native Americans. Whoa! Vaccine. Species body system belongs to boxing things. There is one way to fight that hurts not one. Evolution's gifts, the fruits and gifts and means that come, real become. Vaccines falling. So don't let them block my speech. So they attach me and others to fake words, and then they've been denying this, and just no one knows. So the World Trade Center has roles with all kinds of natures of private things that could never be fathomed. In other words, they have all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes that have nothing to do with healthcare. In fact, they cause medical problems, and they get people to shut up in cities throughout the world where they can't take, where they already, even the locations where they're taking crime statistics, every campus, they have Quinnipiac University is involved with the FBI and other agencies on off the World Trade Center, interstates, on off Central Connecticut State University, on off UConn, off Trinity College, planting little predicate acts and wrongdoing illusions relevant. Little identity theft, fraud, slanders, speaking little fake things, fake motivations for it. Make sure they get on paper. These are little games like this. They even did this. They extorted or whatever. They abused the principal. They had conversation and principal with the one involved with Eric Oliveira in the one class I had with him. Same thing with Eric Jensen. That one class I had with him. Reported fest, demonstrated front, a whole bunch of people involved in the intelligence community went out of their way on Facebook as collusions with the ones at the branch involved on off the child campuses with this thing. They pretend they passes most of them in the background to get away with it. I'll show you how to end it. Foul mandate law. Someone tell Judge Napolitano real fast. I needed